Not wasting time with the theme music today because I'm just really excited to talk to you guys about everything that's happening with the CFL over the last 48 hours. But really quickly, before we get started, if you're new and you want to support the channel, the best way to do it is just by hitting that like button and subscribing to Hussey's Huddle for more CFL content just like this. I really appreciate everybody that signed up recently. We've just surpassed 50 subscribers, which may not sound like much, but it's just one of those milestones to celebrate as we just grow into the future on this channel. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about today are the trades that have been happening over the last couple days here in the CFL. So to start, we saw Cody Speller, who's the offensive lineman that was Winnipeg's center in the Grey Cup in 2019. He gets traded to Toronto for a relatively low amount of compensation. I think just a mid-round draft pick, which isn't worth much. But that's because Speller was not guaranteed to re-sign with Toronto, and basically they couldn't get much for return for Winnipeg. And I really love Speller's fit with the Argos. I think he immediately upgrades that center position if that's where they're going to play him. I assume that's kind of where they're going to play him because I think that's really the weak spot on their offensive line with Sean McEwen going to Calgary in 2020 free agency and that creating a big hole for them there. And so I really like Speller's ability to fill that role for Toronto, and I'm really excited for an expanded role for him as he was kind of in and out of the lineup with Winnipeg, and he can play center, he can play guard. I've seen them move him out to tackle on occasion when injuries have happened during games. So I really like Cody Speller. He's a McMaster guy. I think he's going to do wonders for a Toronto offensive line that desperately needs it. But the bigger trade, which is also involving the Argos, but also involves the Calgary Stampeders, is them sending, and forgive me if I can't remember all of the pieces in this package because it was pretty crazy. Wide receiver Eric Rogers, defensive end Cordero Law, who I predicted could go to Toronto in my CFL matchmaker video, and I'm trying to think who else was in that deal, but there was at least four players that went to Toronto in this deal. And the crazy thing is all that Calgary got in return was a mid-round CFL draft pick, similar to what Winnipeg got for Cody Speller. And the reason for this is obviously all of these players that are being traded to Toronto are going to be free agents come next week. And basically what this does is it allows Toronto to have the negotiation rights for the next week with this team. They can't sign with a new team until next week, officially, although they can negotiate this week through the CFL's negotiation window. For Law, I would love if Toronto can come to a deal with him because, as I explained in my matchmaker video, I think he would give this defensive line a presence that they currently don't have. They don't have an established CFL defensive lineman that strikes fear into the opponent. And Law would absolutely bring that as one of the league's best speed rushers along the edge. And then Rogers is very interesting because they actually just re-signed Davaris Daniels, who had to be, his contract had to be restructured even though he was under contract for 2021. They restructured Daniels. They brought in, obviously, Martavis Bryant, who I talked about in my previous video. And they already have Canadian Juwan Breskiskin under contract for 2021 as well. And so they have the rights of Eric Rogers as well, who is a number one receiver in the CFL, in my opinion. He can play that role very capably. And maybe this really speaks to the fact that Calgary was so far apart in negotiations with this receiver because Rogers is no scrub. I think I ranked him 7th or something like that on my list of the top 10 pending free agents as of last week. This could potentially become a big, major strength for Toronto, much like it was in the 2019 season, but I could see this group being even better than the group that was Darrell Walker, S.J. Green, and Armonte Edwards in the 2019 season. If they can find a way to get Eric Rogers Martavis Bryant, Tavares Daniels, and Juwan Brescacin on the field in 2021, that'd be huge. But let's not beat around the bush here. The biggest topic for today's video is this craziness that's happening with the quarterback situations in Ottawa and Toronto. So Nick Arbuckle, who signed a big contract with Toronto in the 2020 offseason, he has still not officially signed a new deal with Ottawa at a lower cap number. And this is interesting because a few days ago I had read a couple reports saying that they were pretty close on a deal, that they've been in negotiations for weeks, and that the deal was almost imminent. But now, just one day, tomorrow, Nick Arbuckle was due a big roster bonus. I think it's in excess of $100,000. And if he's on the roster by that point, they have to pay that. And the CFL is probably trying to not spend as much money as they can prior to the season. They probably are trying to spend as little money before the season so they can weather the costs of actually paying salaries when the season does come about. And so the bottom line is, if they don't come to an agreement to get rid of that roster bonus or shrink that roster bonus, I think that Arbuckle is going to be a free agent as of tomorrow, or even tonight if it appears that the deal is not going to be reached. And adding to this is the madness. Toronto just released their quarterback, Matt Nichols, who they had signed in the 2020 offseason. And so we see these large salaries that were signed a few years ago, the trend completely reversing. The CFL quarterback salaries going way down, and immediately the thought process is Matt Nichols has worked with Paul LaPolice, who's the head coach in Ottawa, when they were both together in Winnipeg, so people started to draw the dots there. And Arbuckle has a history with Toronto Argonauts head coach Ryan Dinwiddie, I do believe. Basically, effectively, as of tomorrow, or this week, as when Arbuckle and Nichols will potentially both be free agents, Nichols already is, these guys could potentially switch places. It's been a theory that a lot of fans and followers of the league have put out there for a long time. I think it's very interesting because I think Arbuckle is... I stated a lot of my thoughts on Nick Arbuckle the first video I ever did on this channel. And I just don't... I'm not all in on his ability. Obviously, he did look really good in his limited action with the Stampeders. But, again, that offense was really loaded with perimeter talent, a good offensive line and stuff. And don't necessarily think he's going to bring that to Ottawa or Toronto. But I do think he is the higher potential quarterback in this scenario. But I think Nichols, I would be more comfortable with Nichols as my starting quarterback going into 2021 because I've seen him play on a huge sample size, a very consistent play, and when you know what you're going to get at your quarterback, that really is important to how you build the rest of your team. And if you have an inconsistent quarterback, he can have great day one week, he has a bad day the next week. If you don't know what you're going to get, then it's really hard to structure game plans around for your team to have success in the league. And I think having Nichols would have been my preferred option, but obviously the financial situations are playing a gigantic role in all this. It's really the only thing that's playing a role in all of this in the CFL these days. And it's just craziness what's happening right now. One other thing I want to point out is that McLeod Bethel Thompson is a scheduled free agent, and he's really the one guy out there that has CFL starting experience, and we've seen him play well in the CFL statistically. I'm just going to throw out there that he could potentially sign with Toronto or Ottawa in any given scenario here, and he's the dark horse to leave either Nichols or Arbuckle out of a starting spot here in 2021. So just watch out for McLeod Bethel Thompson. He's going to come back and get all of us. But that's going to be the end of today's video. I just wanted to jump on real quick and talk to you guys about this. I hope you guys are having a great day. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. And thank you so much for liking, subscribing the videos. Keep it up, please. It really means a lot to me. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.